Hi, I'm Becca Otis from Five Lines Pottery in Indianapolis, Indiana.
And I'm Ryan Durbin from RD Ceramics, located in Southgate, Kentucky.
And welcome to Wheel Talk.
Hey guys, we've loved answering all of your questions so far. If you'd like to hear your question on the podcast, please send them to us on Instagram at Wheel Talk Podcast or by email to wheeltalkpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks.
Okay.
All right.
Hi, Ryan.
We're live.
Oh,
hi.
We are live, and I need to step away from this microphone.
Have we done more live in a while? I feel like we don't.
I think you do it every time.
I feel like I have not said we're live. I don't know.
I think you do.
I don't remember that, but maybe.
I don't know. How far away do you keep your microphone from your face? Like a foot?
About a foot, yeah.
Okay. So, fun news. I'm in the van and I got this cool microphone stand that Ryan also has, and we now have the same exact microphone, so our audio should be the same exact. Also,
well, we also figured out what the issue was.
Right.
So.
We also figured out what the issue is, which we should probably tell people. It was absolutely 150% my fault. And
they might not know at this time, though. It might have already been fixed by the time they hear this. I don't know.
That's true. Maybe, but probably not. So there's about...
But they could be listening to this 4 months from now.
Right.
You never know.
There's about 30 episodes from 157, I think, to now, which is, what, 1-2 something?
Yeah, 156 up to 179, 178
yeah.
that had the issues.
That at minute mark 42 minutes about went down in audio for maybe 2 minutes, I think, and then went back up. And that's because there was one episode that I needed to go down in volume because it sounded super loud or something. I don't know.
No, you put an audio in there when we were talking about the Diamond Core tool discs, and you were talking about, you were kind of step away, by the way, to clarify, blah, 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 blah. And then you went back to the episode. Sure.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Okay, yeah, that's what happened. And what happens is when I do a new episode, I just use the last final that I had and then copy it and save it as the new episode. And okay, my cat is just not a cat. And so what I did was I just didn't realize that I had done that on the last episode, and it just copied and copied and copied and copied and copied for 30 episodes.
Yeah. So we didn't know if it was on one person's side, because normally we always record each side and then we pieced it together, and then we were like, well, these episodes had the same audio from Skype, so it can't be each of our microphones.
Right. So we thought it was the microphone at first, and Val was like, Becca, something's wrong at this time. And then somebody else was like, something's wrong.
We didn't do too much investigative work.
We did not. We could have done more. I could have done more. And then I was doing something and I was like, holy shit, that's what went wrong. So I'm in the process of fixing every single one of them, which would take no time at all. But saving the files takes 5 minutes, and then uploading the files takes a certain amount of time. So hopefully I'll get it done this weekend when we're at Claycon West.
Yeah, we're getting it figured out.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a great moment.
Thanks for everybody that reached out. We had probably, 4 or 5 people that said something, and
something's wrong.
But let us know if the audio's messed up, and you're like, yeah, the audio's messed up. Here's what's going on. So yeah. Hey, joys of podcasting and figuring things out in technology.
Yep. So fun. So yeah, Ryan, and also we're doing it only audio today because I'm in the middle of Los Angeles that apparently doesn't have any reception. So here we are.
That's all right. Nobody watches the video anyway.
It's true. So we're just doing it audio. I'm pretending that I'm seeing Ryan. Ryan, I should just get a picture of you, like, behind my computer so I can just look at you while...
There is a picture on Skype. There's like a little thumbnail.
Oh, yeah,
right?
that's true. That's true.
I see you with your yellow glasses and your green hair.
Yeah, exactly.
And your very judgmental face right now. You're judging me in that picture.
I'm judging you. I am judging you. Yeah, so... Anyway, how was your week, Ryan?
It's busy as hell. We're going to Claytown West tomorrow.
Yeah, we are.
It's coming up on us. It's been... I was telling Rachel this. I was like, man, this has like been the busiest week I've had in some time. But that's probably not saying much because probably every single week of mine is busy for the most part.
Yeah.
So maybe I just become accustomed to busy. Whereas other people would be like, yeah, I'm good if I have like 2 things scheduled in a whole week and you've got like... I got something scheduled every day. So... Yeah, we did Christmas with the Durbins over the weekend in Louisville, which was great. Had all the kids get together.
Did you get your present from your mom?
I did.
She did good, didn't she?
It was very good. It was a Mitchell Spain mug.
Yeah.
And if anybody out there knows Mitchell Spain's work, he does a lot of decal work, and they're very graphically advanced decals. So like he's getting in Photoshop and making these decals, and they fit the mug perfectly. And he's got the he's got that like rust look, but they're slip cast, but he's got like a rust glaze, so it's kind of got that like tin can look.
Yeah.
And it's got that like aged look, and then it's got a what are the like a metal not a door opener, a can opener.
Yeah.
Is the handle on it.
Oh, so nice. Like a church
bent
key?
Metal. No, like the can openers where one end would have the point on it and it would be curved, and then it would have the little tab so you could like pop a can open with like stabbing through it, or you can have the flat side is on the opposite side.
I think they call those a church key.
Is that what that's called?
Yeah, I believe so.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Now I have to look it up.
I was just picturing an old ancient church key or something.
No, I believe that the church key can opener.
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, I did not know what that was.
The origin of the phrase church key when referring to a bottle opener, apparently bottles, especially beer bottles, were once opened with a heavy cast iron openers that resembled the same type of key used to open church doors in Europe. Interesting.
Oh, okay. Huh. Nice.
Yeah, those are the same things that they have, like, oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yes, looks like a church key.
Looks like a church key.
So that was the present, and then got some other small things. I can't even remember what else I got. But that was a good time, and then we did a game night at the Durbins as well with some family friends, which was great. Played a lot of different games.
Yeah.
I'm a supporter of these game nights, these random game nights. We're getting more accustomed to having them every now and then.
Yeah.
Whether it's at our house and some of Rachel's friends come over. I don't have many friends that would come over and do that, so
except for me,
maybe someday. But yeah, I'm getting into the game nights. I like it.
Yeah.
Usually Rachel's like a no game night, no socializing, but I enjoy it.
Yeah, Rachel's like definitely not a hardcore gamer like you are. We have to...
And I don't know, I was willing to play some games that I fucking hate. Well, one game that I fucking hate.
What is it?
Because I was like, I can't just have a preference of like what games do I always pick. Balderdash.
Oh, Balderdash.
Do you know that game?
I do.
Yeah, not a fan.
Mm-hmm.
The definition bullshitting, I'm not a fan.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, there was this one. It was ridiculous. I can't remember what the name of it was, but the definition was like a camel with a cannon mounted to it. Or it was the cannon that gets mounted to a camel. Or something like that. It was ridiculous. So we had to Google the picture of this thing.
Okay.
It was wild. And then there was something that was ceramic related about cobalt mining
Oh, yeah.
in there. It was like a Zaffer or something like that. So that was pretty wild. And then we did some throwing axes on Sunday, which was good with the in-laws.
Yeah.
That was good. Have you ever done that before?
I haven't. I kind of want to. We should go the next time.
It'd probably be fun, yeah. That was the second time we went. We went to the one up here in Covington. It's actually the same owners as the one in Louisville, so yeah, that was a good time. The neighbor next door, actually, they've been carving out they've been like hollowing out the tree in the front. They got most of it chopped down, and they've got the circles on it for like throwing a hatchet into it or an axe.
Oh, fun.
So they've been playing around with that. I don't know how that works over there, if it's actually doable, but yeah, so that was a good time. And otherwise, just doing a lot of business stuff and working this week. I'll be off the rest of the week for traveling tomorrow and all that. So I did my bookkeeping workshop on Tuesday.
How'd that go?
It went great.
Good.
So I went a little over time, like an hour and 15-ish, but I also asked for a little bit of feedback at the very end. So I probably went an hour and 10 instead of an hour. But I think everybody liked getting... I sent out little sheet beforehand to get them started of like downloading the files they needed to before we got started. And then I did the demonstrating of piecing it all together, and people seemed to follow along. I got a few questions here and there, but it wasn't like anybody completely didn't understand. And then they were able to kind of see how they would adapt it. So the feedback I got so far, I think I got 3 or 4 people that said appreciate it, and it was very well described and covered very, very well, so they can take it and run with it on their own. And said if they get being available through email for quick things, and then possibly adding 30-minute sessions for people if they want for a fee.
Yeah.
So I think I got the next one here in a couple weeks. We'll see how that one goes, but I feel like I kind of got the groove. I was worried I was going to have like way too much content to fit into an hour, but some people were like, hey, if it was more than an hour, it would have been too much of a snooze, because the bookkeeping and stuff is kind of a snooze topic anyways. So
yeah.
So yeah, it went very smoothly, and people were appreciative, so we very happy about that. And some people heard it on the podcast, and we're trying to be mindful of that before they joined. I think some of the folks heard the podcast last week that went out where we were talking about it.
Yeah.
Where I was like nervous, and we were talking back and forth about what I should do and shouldn't do and how I should structure it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the next one, and it'll just get easier and easier, and we'll see how that goes. Maybe it'll be a downloadable thing for a fee, and people can watch the video on their own, or they can join a workshop. I don't know. I just feel like the workshop is like, I can spare an hour, especially if I'm got the hang of it. It's not too bad.
Yeah.
And then probably sell little 30-minute consults for people that have already bought it and watched it.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like for something like that, that's like you're doing like 30-minute options as well. How do you decide what the price would be? You don't just chop an hour and chop it in half, would you? Like $60 an hour, and you just say $30 an hour? Or
I do.
Would you make it more?
I make it.
I was thinking like
I just make it $30.
30.
But I mean, you can make it more.
Yeah, the workshop itself was $50 for the hour.
I would say $30 for a half hour then.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think generally I kind of want to make 30, 35 an hour time-wise.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, 30 for a half hour would be good.
Hell yeah.
I feel like, 25 for half an hour, like that's not enough. Because you got to spend the time getting ready for it, making sure they show up. If they don't,
yeah,
contacting them, emailing them back and forth. Like, it's an hour's worth of work at least. So, did you do the with the scheduling? Do you have them scheduled directly on your site, or do you just reach out and back and forth and figure out a time?
I do square scheduling, just how we do it for our podcast.
Okay.
Yeah.
And for yours, do you pay an extra fee for that?
No, it's free.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Okay, I might end up doing that then.
And they can like choose an option for like 30 minutes, or I made like 4 options, and then they can choose it, and then it comes to me, I accept it, and then it charges them.
Oh, okay.
And then I
That's good
send
to
them
know.
an email with all the things they need to know, plus a link to Dropbox so they can send me stuff, and a link to my Skype.
Okay. And all of that communication is done through an initial like acceptance back to them?
Yeah.
Or do you have to pull out their email and
Nope, I do it all through
pull up
the
an
Square
email?
app. It's all like, I say email to follow, and then I click their email, copy and paste, and send it.
That's cool. Okay. Do they have predefined responses or like email templates that you can save yourself, and then you can, this is what I want to send when somebody gets accepted?
I
This is
don't know.
the feed.
I don't know, because I just put it in my notes and then copy and paste it.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. I know some of those things drain time to figure out exactly. I mean, I tend to save Gmail templates and stuff for emails, but some of that back and forth of figuring out exactly what to say to make sure you tell people what they need to prepare for or whatever. Okay.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's doable with mine, because mine is technically a Weebly site still and not a Square, first and foremost. So we'll have to see.
I think it's through
possible.
Square. It's not through your website. So, oh yeah, good question. I don't know.
Yeah, because my listings were actually created through Weebly.
Yeah.
But it's still tied with Square somehow. So we'll see how the appointments work. But
yeah.
Okay. But that's an option for people out there if you want to try that. I know Becca's is built on Square first and foremost. She calls it Squeebly, but
Squeebly.
It's like Weebly Lite. And
yeah.
Mine was built on Weebly first, and then Square bought them, so it's got more functionality than yours does.
Yeah.
For the building part. Okay. Yeah, what's new with you? What's going on?
Well, I let's see. I don't even know the last time we talked. But
I think you were Colorado. Like you were almost to Colorado, or
yeah, I must have been.
Possibly.
I was in Memphis.
Yeah. Okay.
So I was in Memphis, drove to Colorado. My dad went to the hospital, and was in the ICU because he got pneumonia, but then he also stopped taking his diabetes insulin, and he stopped eating. And so that happened.
Is there a reason to stop doing those things?
He just wasn't hungry, and then he just stopped taking care of himself because he was so sick. It's just one of those things that like nobody was on top of him. My mom didn't know that he wasn't taking his insulin. Like she was sick too. So my mom calls me.
Is taking that kind of stuff reliant on you to be actively eating regularly?
I think so. I don't know for sure, but I think so. So my mom calls me like while I'm getting into Denver, and is like, just so you know, we're in the hospital, and this is before they knew it was pneumonia. She goes, there might be something around his heart. Something might be like blocking his heart. And I was like, great.
Welcome home.
Yeah, like awesome. And what's really good is that my dad, he just picture Santa Claus, and that's what my dad looks like. But like, except with short hair, short spiky hair. So he's like a biker Santa Claus, but he's just as fat as Santa Claus. And, but he goes to the gym every day and walks like 6 miles, and he does water aerobics with all the old ladies. And so he's been doing that for the past 6 to 8 months. And so, he's pretty positive that had he not been doing that, it would have been much harder for him to kind of bounce back from this. So it's good. He's totally fine now.
Was the pneumonia that's like a big lung thing, right?
Yeah, and he had a bacterial and viral pneumonia. So wait, yes, I think that's what it is. So one of them came from somebody and another one just came from himself, I guess. I don't know really anything about pneumonia, and I apologize for any background noise because I think Babs is in the front. So that was fun. I thought I'd have to stay a little bit longer. I did stay a little bit longer, obviously, because I'm not a freaking asshole. But but he was like, once we knew that he was going to be completely fine, I was like, okay, I'm leaving. I didn't want to go to the hospital anyway. Nobody wants to go to a hospital and get sick. And I just can't afford to get sick right now. Like, this is the one time of the year that I'm like, I can't get sick. And my whole family was sick, so I stayed in my van in 20 degrees.
Okay, I didn't know. Okay.
Yeah.
But it seemed like you got in overnight and then you were like, I'm gone. And you left like the next day.
I stayed for a whole day, and then I left the next morning.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I got in at
all
like
of that
12.
timing didn't sound like it was... It sounded like that was like 3 or 4 days.
Yeah, no, I got in at like 12 one day, and then stayed the next day, and then left the next morning. So, yeah.
Wow.
And, like, of course, hit snow on the way there, hit all this weather, of course. Like, the worst rainstorm I've ever been in Kansas City. You know, like, all the things. But I'm in California now.
The rainy part of California
No.
or the non-rainy part?
The non-rainy part of California,
flood part?
It's still raining a little bit, but it's not, like, flooding. And I'm at Jen's house. She's one of my best friends from college. And she lives in, like, she lives in what used to be her grandma's house in, like, the ritzy area of like, it's called Tustin, California. Mm-hmm. It's in Orange County. And, like, literally, we're in this, like, cul-de-sac down a street, and I've left the door open on this van, like, all week. Like, just leaving it open because the cat's roaming around the countryside, and like, my computer's in here, my whole life is in here, and, like, not even a thought of anybody coming and stealing anything. Like...
Because it's just so isolated that...
Yeah, it's just so isolated, and, like, everybody around here has, like, fucking Porsches and, like, nice-ass houses, and, like, the house that she's renting from her father is, like, nice, you know? So, yeah. So, and it's, like, you know, it's... Her grandma had it back in the day when she bought it for, 12 grapes or something like that, so... Yes.
How are the colder nights in there?
They're not bad. We did really good at insulating the van, I feel like. Me and Brandon, he's really the reason that it's good. I'm certainly not. But
so when you were saying 20 degrees, you were talking about the outside temperature was 20?
Yeah, but also when I was at my parents' house, I brought in my heater and, like, you know, blasted it because I could hook it up to a cord. But I haven't had to use the heater at all here in California, and it's been down to like 50 or 45 at night, so that's been nice.
Okay.
So
having your mom's quilt, I'm sure, is helpful.
That quilt is not heat conducting at all. I don't like heavy quilts, and my mom knows that.
Oh, you're saying that doesn't... Oh, that doesn't, like... overheat you is what you're saying?
No, I've got like 4 blankets on the bed right now. No, my mom's quilts are like the old school quilts that are like really thin, but that's the way I like them. No comforters in my life. No.
Yeah.
So I have like 6 blankets on the bed. One of them's wool. So yeah, that's kind of how I roll. But Lloyd's been going outside, and he is learning how to be a cat. And Babs is going outside, and she's not really liking it all that much, but she's tolerating it. And she's on my computer.
Does she just go out to explore when Lloyd's out there just to like see what's going on? Or
yeah, she like walks like 10 feet away, and then notices something, and she's like, I'm out, and comes back.
Oh, that's good.
She's like, she gets scared. But
well, at least she found a place of refuge, I guess.
Yeah.
She knows where to go back to.
Yeah, so it's been pretty good. I've only had to like chase Lloyd down once. And that was like when we were talking, it was like 11 p.m. and I had to like run him down.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, it's been pretty good. So yeah, I'm excited to go up to Claycon West and use the washing machine at the rental we have.
Mm-hmm. I think Rachel's gonna take some stuff to wash too. So.
Oh, tell her that I've got like a bunch of loads so we can go in on it. I was like, I'm gonna use it to the most of my abilities. I'm gonna wash my quilts. I'm gonna wash all my clothes. I'm gonna wash some blankets.
Oh yeah, I mean that's great.
Yeah.
I mean if you got it, use it. So.
Right. Maybe I'll wash that stupid fucking like sleeping bag. It depends on how big the washer is for that bugger. But yeah.
You have a sleeping bag?
Yeah, it's my mom and dad's sleeping bag from like the 90s, and I put it on the back of my wall to insulate the back wall.
Oh yeah, that if it's pretty gross, you probably don't want it hanging everywhere.
It's not gross. It's clean. It's like, I mean, it's been cleaned obviously since somebody's used it, but it's got like holes in it. It's from like 1992, like, and
oh okay,
but it's like a 0-degree sleeping bag. It's intense.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
I
mean,
that's your just.
People know.
Are you gonna use that just in case it's like really bad?
Right.
It's
exactly.
really cold somewhere?
That's my just in case sleeping bag. Like people know. Like if I say it's a green sleeping bag with plaid flannel on the inside, half of the people listening to this podcast is like, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. So anyway, we should probably move on.
Yeah. One last thing.
Oh, what's that?
I didn't mention it, but we had our Clay Alliance meeting at Rookwood Pottery tonight.
Oh yeah, I saw the pictures.
And that facility was sweet. They said if you're going to Nsika this year, they actually are on the bus tour.
Oh, nice.
For one of them, and they're giving tours. So if anybody's in town and they're coming to Nsika and want to see that factory, like it's really cool actually. They're really historic. I'm not really into the history of Rookwood and know all the things, but I mean they've been making molds and they have molds of pieces back to like the 1800s and stuff. So it's their archive room, and they do tile work, they do wheel thrown work, they do slip cast work.
Do they have human wheel throwers?
Yes.
Cool.
There are 3 wheel throwers.
Oh, only 3.
Yeah. And then they do glazing. They do some dip glazing, they do spray glazing, they have painters that do some of the tile work, like detail work. They've got ram presses that they use for some of the tiles.
That's cool.
They've got a whole mold room. One of my friends that's on the Clay Lines board, she's one of the mold makers or helps with the molds. So, yeah, it's pretty fascinating to see all of that. And then the archives are just huge of how many molds and, ram press molds and just other things just on the shelves. It's crazy. So, that facility was very cool. It's down in Over the Rhine. We talked about that on the podcast when we were talking about Cincinnati. But it's down there by Findlay Market, Over the Rhine. It's very cool. So
that's awesome.
You should make a trip over there if you can. The historian there gave us the tour. It was great for about an hour-ish.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, hit that up. Yeah, that was it.
Cool.
All right. Do you want to go to the first question here?
Yes. I'm tagging you in a little post because Babs was really cute right next to my microphone.
Oh, okay.
Damn it. This cat is so
All
goddamn
right, the first
cute.
question comes from Jane Orme Pottery.
Okay.
ORME Pottery. It says, any advice for starting a podcast?
What did we do?
We don't really get questions like this. We don't really get questions like this on here very much. I don't know that we've answered this before or anything like this before.
I don't think we have.
So, no. I mean, what we did was we got microphones that we thought were
Yep.
good enough. Like they are good. Like I got a Blue Yeti, you got a Blue Yeti.
Yep.
Like they're good quality microphones.
Yeah, but we would
Maybe
probably
more than some people would be willing to spend. Like
Yeah.
the microphone we got I use it as a business expense. So I mean, it's probably $120 microphone.
Oh.
But I mean, some people, I think Bat Ceramics Brooke, she does the Batty Bitches podcast.
Yeah.
And I want to say she got a cheaper one, and she regrets getting the cheaper one because it wasn't as good. So maybe don't spend $30 on a microphone.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, maybe something in the $60, $75 range at base.
We use like Blue Yeti is good. We now use Samsung, not Samsung.
SAMSON.
Yeah, microphones. Mostly because we got them on a giveaway, but they work great, and they're pretty simple. Not a lot of, bits and bobs to do anything about it. And they seem to work just fine. And I've also used the Shure microphone, and that one works really great as well.
That one's like a top of the line microphone.
Yeah, that one's like
if you watch professional podcasters that do video and everything,
yeah,
you'll see a lot of Shure. That's SHURE, I believe.
Yeah.
Those are legit.
Yeah, those are like the best ones that you can get. So I would like maybe go for Samsung first. And again, not Samsung, Samsung, like Samson and Delilah.
Yeah, SAMSON.
Yeah, so
I think Blue Yeti we bought a certain line. I think there's a lower line of Blue Yeti that's a little bit cheaper that you could get that's probably sub 100.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you're getting the audio quality is obviously going to be a big part of it. So
yeah,
if you get a shitty mic, you kind of want something you could grow into a little bit. It's an investment. So I would say don't use your AirPods. Like probably get an actual mic.
But I mean, like you can. Some people use their AirPods. But I think before maybe investing in a microphone, I would potentially maybe like do the other stuff first. Like we go through Buzzsprout, which is
that's our hosting
provider. And as much as Ryan wanted to find one for free, we ended up paying. But it's great because it puts it on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all the podcasts, Spotify,
everything,
everything, literally everything, and very simple to use, very easy to understand. Gives your stats. It's very simple. I love it. I'm very happy.
Yeah, we didn't really. I don't remember us shopping around too much. I don't remember being so adamant about not paying for it.
I think that you wanted to pay less.
Okay. I mean, some of the other options out there, I believe, are Anchor is a popular one, which I believe is owned by Spotify. I think Brooke hosts hers with Anchor, maybe.
Yeah.
And that one's one that makes it a little bit easier and more intuitive that you can record it directly in their app or whatnot. So it's kind of you can pull your phone up and you can record directly on your phone into the app. Like that's an option. Or Buzzsprout, I think there were some other ones that we looked into. Do you remember?
No, because I think that I honestly just read an article and was like, you should use Buzzsprout. And I was like, great. That might have been how it went. And I'm not sure. I can't remember if you got it or I did. But
yeah. So you're going to need and the benefit of the hosting platform is just, for one, you can upload it to them. It stores the file for you, which is good, and then it distributes it. Essentially, all the podcast is doing is storing it to an RSS feed, and then the different apps and platforms are pulling in that RSS feed and getting all of the updated episodes, I believe, is kind of how that works. So it's kind of like pushing it out to all of those feeds. You don't have to do anything once you've uploaded and said publish.
Right. We still had to make like an Apple Podcast like account on Apple, I believe.
And register the podcast.
Yeah, but I don't think
claim that like.
Yeah, but I don't think we needed to do that with Spotify, did we?
I don't think it's required.
Okay, so there's that, and then, what else? You have to decide whether you want to do like audio and video or just audio. We chose audio because we knew that it would be a lot less work and a lot less editing, and so,
honestly, I would suggest audio first and foremost. I mean, most people are going to be listening to it through audio, so if you can, I mean, we haven't even got to the content portion, but focusing on the audio and making sure it's good for people to get value out of what they hear, because that's what most people are going to be consuming it as. So
you're not Joe Rogan. You don't have to have your face on the television. Nor should he, but that's okay.
And like the number of people that actually watch our content through video is minuscule.
Yeah.
And we've been doing it for 3 years. Like, people are not going on YouTube to find us.
Yeah.
Not saying that that's another option that people could view you, so you're widening your audience potential. But if you don't focus on the video and you don't spend the time focusing on that, you could spend other time on the audio quality,
right,
the content that you're preparing for it, the editing. If you need to edit anything, you could spend time editing just audio and not audio and video.
Yep. We use GarageBand for our recording as well. I think that should be stated. I don't know what people would use with a PC, but GarageBand comes with Apple, so we didn't have to pay anything extra for that.
We're both on Macs. Software that I've heard of is OBS, Open Broadcaster Software. I believe that is that's a Windows application.
Yeah. And like as everybody else knows, we don't really edit anything on purpose because we want it to be as real but also as little work as possible.
Right.
So
yeah, figure out what your intention is. Like, you listen to different podcasts, they have different they just have different ways of doing it. So
yeah.
I don't know how much Paul edits. I know Rebecca from Maker's Playbook edits quite a bit. I don't know how much she's cutting out, but she's getting it nice and succinct so that they're under a certain time generally.
Yeah.
So she's kind of on a time thing, and she's trying to focus it so that they're about an hour-ish on average, so that, they can go a little over, but maybe there's little trimming that happens, and maybe all she trims is the ums and uhs, and
yeah.
But we're like, hey, ums and uhs happen in normal conversation, so we don't care about it that much.
Right, and I do feel like that we've gotten better over time.
Yeah, it's something you're going to get better at naturally for yourself. I mean, I still say so a lot, and I say and I say like a lot.
Yeah, I mean, we both do, but I know that once we did each of us did an individual podcast, we were like, oh. Oh.
Yeah, you could definitely tell. But you could also tell if we were to script it. Like, if I were to write a script for what I was going to say.
Yeah.
That wouldn't... I'm not the best reader, and that would be like having me read an audiobook. You don't want to hear me read an audiobook.
No, we don't.
That would be terrible. So, you got to figure out what your personality is and how it comes across. Is it good for audio? Is it drier?
Yeah.
Do you need somebody else to counteract that? do you know somebody well enough that you can talk topics and kind of draw out more value?
Right. I mean,
Or
like,
talk about something that maybe you already know a little bit about, but you're teasing out something that the listeners might not know?
right. I mean, we always, well, I don't know about you, but I always say that, like, I'm Ryan's Jar Jar Binks to his, or I'm the Jar Jar Binks to Ryan's Obi-Wan Kenobi, in the sense of, like, I'm the comedy relief a little bit, but I still know some stuff, you know? But he's like, he's the more, hey, let's get more serious and talk about this. But that's how we complement each other, and we also know different things than each other, so that helps out.
Although we probably know what each other would answer for
Absolutely.
most of the things we talk about because we know each other so well and we
Yeah.
know each other's personalities. So
Yeah. And I think that a lot of people would probably say that we argue like a married couple, even though he's married to somebody else. Um, but yeah. So like, if you're not the whole package, if you don't think that you can do a podcast by yourself and like have people listen to you by yourself, then maybe you need to find somebody else, or maybe you need to exclusively be interviewing people. You know, I wouldn't be good with an interviewing podcast. That's why Ryan does most of the interviews, because he's a better interviewer than I am.
and I also think that there's things that I don't do as well when I interview because I give them, do you do XYZ? And it's kind of answering the question instead of leaving it open-ended. I know that I naturally do that.
Yeah.
And I'm sort of doing it to think through, this is how I would do it. Do you also consider that when you're doing this thing?
Right.
But that's just the way I like to think through it. Because sometimes I feel like if I leave things too open-ended, then it doesn't, I don't know. Some people that you talk to could run with it and know kind of where you're going with it. So maybe I go a little bit further of where I'm going with it and make it obvious, and then they can kind of elaborate. But
Yeah.
that's just how I like to kind of do things.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I think the biggest thing is to not care about stats at the beginning. Like, really don't care about if you're reaching anybody. And that's like the same as like when you're starting Instagram and stuff like that, you know? You just have to keep doing it even though it's not showing any results. And like you'll have like the first half a year that nobody's going to listen to your shit. And that's just the way it is, you know? And then someday 4 people listen, and then the next day 12 people, and then the next, you know, and it just keeps growing. We still don't have a huge following, you know? I feel like.
Right. Yeah, I think it's as long as you're interested in the things you're talking about.
Yeah.
And especially if you're interviewing somebody, you know, don't feel like you have to ask a question just because it's obvious that you should ask the question. Like, hey, you've got a lot of Instagram followers. How did you get all those followers? Like, maybe that's an obvious question that most people would ask this person. But maybe there's something that's interesting to you and you're interested to ask.
Yeah.
That maybe other people wouldn't ask.
Yeah.
You know, that could distinguish what you're talking about than what somebody else is talking about. And maybe it's it could be flattering to them that you're asking them something completely different than the obvious surface level questions that you could ask. And some of that comes about because we generally know the people somewhat. We have some kind of rapport with who we interview and who we talk to.
Yeah.
So that we can get past that surface level question that maybe gives you, you know, 5 minutes of good value, but maybe it's value that you could get from them from watching their Instagram.
Yeah.
Or maybe they've answered it on another podcast, but maybe you want to get a level deeper and see if there's something else that you can figure out from them. And if you have interest in a certain topic, then, you know, go with questions that you're interested in finding answers to as well. And then naturally, you're not the only one that's wondering those questions. So.
Right. Do we have anything else before we should move on?
I don't think so. The only other hosting thing that I saw was Libsyn. I think that was another one that was a hosting platform that you could look into. Libsyn was another hosting service. I would say get it started. Figure out your what do they need to focus on, like what makes their thing different than other people, or is it just talk to people who interest you or talk about things that you're interested in at a like general level?
I feel like, yeah, I feel like at the beginning it's good to just talk about what you're interested in, and then it kind of develops from there. I think it's important not to like secure yourself into a role too quickly, you know?
Plus it'll evolve. Like you'll see what
Yeah.
you like doing and what you don't like doing and what you are uniquely skilled at
Yeah.
as you talk. And I would say don't be so nervous that you record something and then you're like, this is not good enough, I can't publish it. Some of that is going to happen. Like I'm sure if I listen back to our first 5 or 6 episodes, like somebody I talked to today was like, I just started listening to the podcast. I listened to episode 1 and I'm on like episode 12 now. I was like, oh gosh.
Yeah, you're like, oh
So
shit.
I was like, you've got a long way to go. But I mean, that's just part of it. You know, there's only been a couple episodes that we haven't published, and you know, one of them was outdated, and one of them was like some technical issues with some people. So, you know, there's not a lot of reasons that we would choose not to publish something,
Right.
unless it's like glaring that like you probably shouldn't have said X, Y, or Z. But you know, I would say not every single thing you put out is gonna be perfect. So
Very true.
that's part of the learning process. So,
Yep.
all right, we got pretty in depth on that one.
Yeah. What's the next one? How many months?
Do you have it, or do you want me to read it?
Yeah, I've got it. How many months out are you researching when booking shows? That's from Pilates Potter. How many
Pilates
months?
Potter.
Ooh, well,
So you're doing a show in February. When did you apply to that show?
in November.
November. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say 2 to 3 months is fairly short period of time
Yeah.
to be applying for a show.
That was the very last minute.
So I've got a list of shows that I'm planning for, and I've started applying to. It's like the second week of January right now, and most of the shows that I've applied for are on Zapplication, so they're pretty far in advance. You know, one of these is in mid-August. We got one in June, early June. We got one in late April. There's another one in Labor Day weekend, July. So a lot of these are, 5 and 6 months out.
I feel like January is a good month. Like, instead of saying, like, how far in advance do you research, I think that January is just a good month for the whole year, almost, for a lot of shows. Some shows don't open up their applications until a little bit later, but I'm looking at most of my shows that I can do in January, for the rest of the year.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. You can plan ahead and just write out, maybe you don't know exactly which shows, but what I do is I make and I've done shows year after year, so I pretty much have a best of list that I'm saying, this is the one I want to apply for, or these are the 10 I want to apply for again this year for sure. And then maybe there's some, my B list of group of shows that I want to think about, but I want to find out when the applications are out. So, Rachel actually has been helping me this year and go into the different websites of the shows, because some of them it's hard to dig up when show applications come out. But if you could find the website, hopefully they would put they put the date of the show, and then they put when the applications are available. Even if it's like a year old and they say applications for 2021 go live March 1st.
Yeah.
Like generally it's going to be the same time for the next year's show. So, she would create calendar events for me so that I got reminded when that show application went live, so I can look out for it. And then I just keep, you can just keep a good old pen and paper with the show dates and when the applications go live, and kind of set yourself a schedule of when you need to apply for things. And don't forget about them.
Yeah. That's the big thing.
Even if it's got to be like really ridiculous with a bunch of reminders. Like, make sure you don't forget. Because I forgot about 2 or 3 shows last year. One of them, the lady said I would have got in, but I missed the deadline. It also didn't help that I told her that I knew other Potters in it, and I was like, oh, this will be great because I'm going to tell her like how great her show was. There was other Potters that I talked to that have been in the show, and they said how great it was. And that was a negative for me because she was like, well, you know other Potters. If they found out you got in after the fact.
Are you serious?
They might not like that, so...
Wow.
I was trying to like, hey, I'm looking forward to being in your show. So I made sure to not miss that deadline this year. And I missed another one late, but the Woodland one, I got an invite just because I'd done it before. And I think we talked about this. Somebody must have dropped out or some people didn't travel.
Yeah.
So they gave me a spot. But, yeah. If you're friendly with your things and don't just leave it as, hey, are all your spots full and leave it at that? Maybe you're saying, hey, I was really looking forward to selling in this show this year. I noticed that I was wondering when the applications went live or something like that. Or you said, I just missed the application date. I'm ready to submit, but I noticed I'm past due. Is there any possibility that I can get on a wait list or apply just in case? Like, you know, you could sweet talk them a little bit. Maybe they're, especially if you've done the show before.
Yeah.
I feel like that might help, But yeah, have you been looking on Zapplication for applying to things? I know you were looking at shows all over the country this year.
I honestly haven't recently. I need to get back onto it. This weekend's going to be big because this week was kind of like okay, we're going to just do a few things. Take a little bit of a fucking break, you know? And so I need to get back to it. I glazed some cups here, but I need to actually like get back to actually doing things next week. So,
like making in clay?
No, I've been making, but I mean like getting online figured out and like
right,
pretending like
I mean a lot of that stuff is not really like sexy work that you're getting done. Like it's not a great day when you just got to sit at a desk and write out notes,
right?
And plan for shows and Google things. Like yeah, that's like a 6-hour day. That's a work day.
Yeah.
Of figuring this stuff out. It's not great, but you got to do it. You don't want to do it last minute and forget and wish you had time to get into something because you didn't plan. So yeah, even if you just set aside, I find it, lately I haven't had time to get in the studio as much. So when I do have time, I prioritize getting in the studio. But are there things that are computer work that I need to get done as well? Yes.
Yeah.
So it's always a balance of figuring that stuff out. But yeah, January, like you said, great time to be planning this. I think Ashley, you talked to, she said she'd already applied to everything by November, December of last year. For 2023, she'd already done it December 2022. So
yeah,
she was on it, ahead of it.
Crazy.
Just depends on the show you're applying for.
Yeah, for sure. I just, you know what, like secretly, I don't want to have to apply to any shows. I just want to like be famous on Etsy for like a hot second. So that I can just send all my shit.
Well, you got to get things on Etsy before you can get famous on Etsy.
I know.
But some of it, like, I applied for 2 shows that I was thinking I didn't really want to do, and I was like, I'm on Zapplication, and I've already got all this stuff set up, so it's so easy to just find a show and apply for it.
That is nice.
So I applied for 2 shows that I wasn't generally going to apply for. But I was like, what the hell? I mean, let's say I get into it and I can deny it. What's the risk? I mean, I'm out $25-$40 maybe at max for an application fee.
Yeah. This
apply for it.
This show in Seattle that I'm doing.
Yeah.
It was like on a whim, I was like, oh wow, there's a show in Seattle when I'm going to be there. So I did it. And now, of course, I'm like front and center on their marketing. I was like the second person in their Instagram post. I was like, great.
I saw that.
Now I have to fucking bring my A game because
that show looks good. I mean, well, it looks very unique because it's Is it a lot of vintage stuff or like mid-century stuff?
I think it's actually a lot of fine art stuff.
Oh, really? Okay.
And design.
It had kind of a mid-century vibe.
Yeah. So I'm pretty stoked about it, but I'm like, oh shit, like my stuff's like front and center. Let's get going.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, when one of your photos is just your stack of fancy cups,
Yeah.
that's your A game right there.
I mean, my A-B game, because that was literally like the shittiest photo I could have sent. But I did it anyway.
Really?
I mean,
I
it's
thought that was probably the best photo of the ones you probably sent, right?
maybe. I don't know.
Like, I
But
mean, just the eye catchingness of all the designs versus seeing one pot in your hand.
that's true. I mean, all of my pictures had like multiple cups in it because I didn't
Oh, okay.
realize that that was a thing.
Mm-hmm. But
So,
yeah, I mean, that's great. Yeah, and spending time figuring out your photos. If you need to retake photos for those applications, do that now too.
mm-hmm.
I find myself forgetting that later, and you don't want to be down to crunch time and you have to apply for something and you don't have up to date photos, and you're like,
Yeah.
I gotta apply with these old ass photos. Is this gonna affect whether I get in or not?
Yep.
Never know. Okay, get on it, people. All right, next question.
I think this should be our last question.
Is
I
this
feel
the
like we should
topic?
have like a small
Is this kind of a topic for today, or is this just like a
I feel
lengthy
like we've
question maybe?
I feel like we've just had questions today that were like medium long.
All right,
Yeah. But yes,
that's all right.
I think it is the topic, but not really.
All right. Well, this one came from earthbound.me on Instagram,
Yep.
and it reads, how do you work through self-doubt as a beginner potter? When you want to sell, but... ...
I love this question.
So
Because
this is kind of similar to when are you ready to sell? And
yeah. It is.
so we've probably done an episode related to that, so I'll figure out what episode that was, but we can start and see where this goes today.
Do you think that you had self-doubt like at the beginning?
I mean, I feel like generally I was pretty proud of what I was making, even though when you look back on it years later, you're like, that was shit. But
Yeah.
in the space and the world that you were in at that time, I felt like I always tried my best to make good work.
Yeah.
Do you think I wonder if that's more of a confidence in your work question, or if that's... Yeah, I feel like that's what the question is. Wouldn't you agree? It's more about how confident are you in your work?
I think so. I mean, yes and no,
Make it
because
sellable?
like I feel like when you're a beginner potter, the not only are you have to be confident in your own work, but then you have to see all of the other people's work that's so good, and then you're like constantly comparing yourself to them. And
Mm-hmm.
that I think is where most of the self-doubt comes into play when we're dealing with like, am I good enough, and I think that really it's not even about what your work is. Like, I think you see this all the time everywhere. If some people have the shittiest freaking work in the whole world, but they have the most self-confidence you could ever have. And they're just fine. you know? And it's not about like your work getting better, it's about your opinion towards your own pieces getting better. I think that
Yeah, part of it's like setting a bar, and are you meeting that bar for yourself?
yeah.
Because I think you're the one that decides what that line is,
Right, like
and then you hopefully over time you keep moving it and you keep you keep changing the goalpost a little bit.
right, like you should not be setting a bar to other people's standards either. You know? Like if somebody came up to me and was like, "Oh man, I wish that I made stuff as good as you." I'm almost immediately going to be like, well, I've been doing this for 14 years. How long have you been doing it? And usually the response is like, 1 to 2 years. Why would you even ever expect your stuff to be as good as mine at a year?
Mm-hmm.
That's unrealistic, and that's not healthy for you. You know?
Right. And that's kind of a insult to somebody that's putting in so much. Well, it's not meant to be, but it could be seen as an insult to people that have been doing it for years and years, and they think, oh, well, I should be as good as you without putting in the time and the
Right. I mean, like, yeah, I never see
equity.
it as an insult. I totally understand where it comes from, but yeah, I mean, I think that you really have to put yourself. You almost have to like place yourself in the lane that you need to be in. You know, like don't go in the fast lane if you're not going fast. Be in the slow lane if you need to be in the slow lane. And be like, okay, what do I expect from my pieces at this time and place? And if your expectations are met, then that's all the confidence you need. Is you don't need to look at anybody else's stuff but your own. You
Right.
know? I think that's the biggest thing is like when you have self-doubt, especially as a beginner, you're just like constantly berated with all of the other people's stuff.
Yeah, it's hard to distinguish. You have to look at people's stuff somewhat to get inspired and see what's possible,
Yeah.
but also it's hard to separate the comparison game.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean like you're ready to sell when you feel like you're ready to sell. Obviously, we think that you should test your pieces first. That's
Mm-hmm.
just normal.
That was
But
covered in episode 135, by the way.
yeah.
When should you start selling is the name of that. And we did talk about glaze testing, food safety.
Yeah. But as far as your confidence is concerned, I guarantee you if you go out and go into the real world, somebody will love your pieces. I could go out with a gosh, like I could go out with like a piece that's not trimmed that looks like a blob and somebody would be like, "This is beautiful." Like half of the shit that I sell, I'm like, "I can't even believe you like that."
Mm-hmm.
like like there is a piece for literally everybody in this world. And
Right.
and
And when you're at a show, you're not competing for the same customer as another potter that's been in for 15 years. Like that's not the same customer that you are
right.
that's on the table. So not on the table, but like it's not the same customer for you.
Yeah.
You kind of have to your customer base changes as you progress and you make certain work. You know, maybe people are looking for a certain color and your piece is picked over somebody else's because that color matches their kitchen more than this person who's been doing it for 15 years.
Right.
Maybe they have a better refined craft than you, but that color didn't match what that person was looking for. So or maybe they're just looking for something different or funky or new, and or maybe there's something about your personality that sparked something in them, or the way you set your booth up. You know.
I think also one of the ways that you can kind of get over this kind of like thought process of like being self-doubt or whatever is in within every piece that you have, find something that you like about it too. You know? Like you can find things that you would change, but make sure you're finding something that you like about it. Um some people say that's like kind of like toxic positivity, but I think that you can have realistic positivity um in the sense of like everything you make should have one thing at least that you like.
And that's a good point too that you say that, because as you're at shows, I think it's great to be able to tell stories and narratives, and if you can tell somebody when they pick something up why you liked what you liked about the way that
Yeah.
that thing turned out, it's you're not being salesy by saying telling them what you liked about it and why you like it. You're not saying you should buy this because this is superior because of the way that the glaze ran over this thing. that is not predictable. Like, you don't have to fluff it up like that, but just telling them why you're excited about the way that that one came out. And like, oh, I really like the way that this glaze combination came out. I'm definitely going to be pursuing this more. And this gave me some good, insights into how this glaze can work.
Yeah. Also, like, when people, if you do go to shows and you are a beginner, when people pick something up, do not be saying, oh yeah, I wish it would have done this, but I did this, blah, blah, blah. Do not be talking down about your pieces in your own goddamn booth. Instead,
definitely don't do that.
Yeah, definitely don't do that. But I do think that can happen, when things are, because I've certainly done it. But like, you need to be like, like, that's why I say, like, pick something that you like about each piece. Be like, oh yeah, you know what, I really love the glaze on that piece. I'm really fond of it, and that shows the customers that you like your own stuff. You need to like your own stuff if you sell your own stuff.
And just because you like your own stuff doesn't mean that you're saying this is the best.
Yeah, no.
Like, I have reached my peak. It's like, no, it's just you're happy with the stuff you're making, and that can resonate with the customer if you're happy about it and you're excited about it. And it doesn't mean that you don't think your shit doesn't stink. Like,
yeah. I also definitely think you need hype people. Like, there's got to be somebody in your life that's like, oh my god, I fucking love that. To everything. Literally everything. Find whoever that is in your life and hold on to them for dear life, because sometimes they're the people that will get you through the day.
Maybe take them to the show with you? Is that what you mean?
Or no, just like, I mean,
or
if you have a new piece, or if you have a new piece and you like, hey, how do you like this? And they're going to be like, dude, I fucking love that part. Like, keep those people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, find positive people. And if other people are, like, giving you a bunch of negativity, just drop them.
Or don't ask for their insight.
Yeah, don't ask for their insight.
Like there's certain people that you value their opinion on a lot of different things, but maybe their opinion on your pottery or how you make something is not as important. Like, maybe they're not the primary, maybe they don't speak for most of your customers.
Yeah.
And they could have a very specific taste that is different than what your customers would like.
Yeah. Also find some children. They're always the best hype people. Like a super extra positive, like, little girl. I love that because it's pink. I love them. They're the best. Do you have anything else? Let's read it again to make sure that how do you work through self-doubt as a beginner potter when you want to sell but I feel like
we focused a lot on choosing when to sell. Is there anything else like pre-selling, like as you're making stuff and you're making decisions during the process? I
think that it's really important to remember that you're always learning, like, this is your time, especially when you're not selling, this is your time to mess up.
Mm-hmm.
And messing up is good, and it's a part of life.
Yeah, I think one other thing is choosing to, take it, like, have fun, but you can also take it a little seriously, but also be intentional about what you're making.
Yeah.
So, be conscious of the decisions you're making as you're doing them.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't have to nitpick and be so granular with it, but decide how you finish your bottom. Do you keep it as you cut it off the wheel and you put it on a board? Maybe you put it on a wood board that has a bunch of texture on it and it's not a flat, even board, and you didn't make it a point to smooth out the bottom. Be intentional about how you treat the whole piece. Don't let things just become, oh, that's just how it turned out.
Yeah.
be very mindful of the way the whole thing comes together. Whether it's how the handle attaches to the mug, and making sure that you're stirring your glaze up enough when you're planning to dip it, and not saying I think that bucket was stirred up, or you're at a community studio and you're like, hey, did this bucket just get stirred, and you're not sure, like, stir it again. What's the harm?
What
Is
is
it
the
worth
harm? I stir it
is
before
it
every
worth
time.
is it worth messing up something because you thought something had been done? Like, make sure you're doing your due diligence to not let some of those things slip your mind, or making a nice clean wipe on the bottom so that it's not an afterthought or
Yeah.
forgotten about.
And also, I mean, depending on the type of person that you are, I am the type of person that, specifically me, I need critiques from other people in order to become less doubtful of my own stuff. Because I'm always critical of my stuff. So if I take people that I respect in the art sense, like, and I say, hey, here's like 3 mugs or 4 mugs, please tell me exactly like what you think of them. I want the good and the bad. That can be very helpful to some people who are like me, because like having the bad is great because then I can learn something from it. But then having them say the bad plus the good, I know that they're not lying when they, or they're not just like one of those people that's like, I love everything.
You're like, that was the least helpful comment I could have gotten.
Right. Like, that's what 6-year-olds are good for, because they do love everything. But like, uh, but like adults can give you some criticism back, and I think that can be very good. I think it's good to have the negative and the positive, because then the positive is actually very heartfelt and very thought out, so.
Mm-hmm. And I think I was thinking about this when I was initially starting, like before I even sold, was going through the process of considering getting feedback from a few different people
Yeah.
on something like price.
Yeah.
Like maybe that, maybe there are things that you can ask about that you could get a sampling of different input to understand, if this was priced at blah, do you think that seems reasonable? Or what would you use this for? And get feedback open-ended so that you can get some ideas flowing. That just getting a sampling of different people that you could talk to get some feedback that is not, it's pretty open-ended. You don't bias them at all and say, this is what I intend to use it for. Would you use it for this? And kind of put them into a path.
Yeah.
Kind of see what they think, and if they can give you some just general feedback that you can parse through. That might not even be potters. Like maybe they don't even buy pottery.
Right.
But maybe they're just a neutral third party that, if you ask people in the studio, they already have some sense of pottery knowledge and they know how things are made. So certain things are going to grab their attention, whereas just an everyday customer that just walks around, doesn't go to art shows, or does go to art shows and has some handmade stuff, has certain feedback in what they look for, what draws their attention. I don't think that's bad to do early on.
Yeah. Indeed.
I feel like I want to ask that one anonymous one, though. That anonymous question on here.
Oh, that's a quick one.
And I feel like that kind of relates a little bit to book ending the selling part.
I feel like I'm getting like feedback on my mic, and I don't know why.
I don't know. I don't hear anything.
Okay, well, I think you can hear it on my end, and I apologize if you can. I don't know what's going on. Anyway.
Maybe turn your volume down a little bit just in case.
It's all like crickly, like, staticky.
I kind of hear that a little bit too.
I wonder if it's like the way this is attached. Why is it doing that, Ryan?
No idea. I haven't moved my mic the whole time.
I haven't moved it either. I have, but I mean, anyway, we're just gonna have to deal with it, and we'll see if it happens the next time. Okay, here's an anonymous one. When you say you have a good art fair, what does that really mean?
I think it means different things to different people, but generally, good art fair. Sales is definitely a portion of it. So, did I make what I expected to make? Let's say if that's a farmer's market, maybe for me, I want to have sold $500 worth.
Okay.
I would consider that good for a farmer's market for
Yes.
me. And a lot of the other factors are, was it easy to set up? Was I stressed out from things that I had to do to, like, before I even sold, before I got to the day started and I was selling with customers and my booth's already set up? Was there stress involved? Was there a conversation I had that like threw me off from a, somebody being an asshole when we were trying to set up and somebody was in the way and shouting or something? Was there, did I have good interactions with people? Some of that you can control, a lot of it you can't. Were people generally nice? Happy to be there?
Yeah.
Were the other neighbors of you nice, enjoyable? I would say that's a lot of the factor. I mean, I don't really put much weight into the weather. Was I prepared for the weather, hopefully? Hopefully that would have to do with it. I mean, I don't really feel like weather affects whether I judge something good or bad, necessarily. But that's some of the stuff that factors into what I mean when I say it was a good day or a bad day or mad day or great day.
Okay, but like let's get down to the nitty gritty. If you're going to a show that's a 2-day show, what's a good show for you?
3,000.
3,000
at least.
Okay, great. For me, a good show is 1,500. So, depending on how many days it is.
Depends on the 2-day show, though. I mean,
yeah. But for me,
it's hard to say. But there's certain standards that I have for a certain show.
Yeah.
If I go back to Berea again this year, I think I sold at least 4,500 last year, maybe.
Yeah.
So, I mean, good for me would need to be at least. I don't expect to meet exactly what I did the previous year, but it needs to be within the realm.
Yeah.
Like if I sold there 4,500 last year, I don't expect. That's a 3-day show. I don't. If I had a $1,500 weekend, that would be a bad show for me.
Yeah.
That would be a third. So, good for me there. At least 3,000.
Yeah.
3,500 at least.
I think that for me, like, I don't have the show, like, history that Ryan does. So, like, if I, like, make over $1,000, I'm like, okay, I'm doing okay. But, like, at the farmer's markets in the summer, $200 was fine for me, And also, like, did I get lunch beforehand or was I hungry? Like... Mm-hmm. Like that really did matter.
That is a factor. Like, how are the food options? Did you have access to go and eat or get something?
Yeah, was your neighbor nice? Like, I think that a lot of people when we go up to somebody and say like, "How was your show?" and they were like, "Oh, it was good." I'm sure they're thinking financially, but a lot of the times I'm thinking exactly how you said, like, if somebody fucking pissed me off, or if I had fun interactions with customers, if I had fun time with my neighbors, like, those things matter. And, but, like, you have to decide for yourself what good is, as far as shows go. You can't compare yourself to other people because they're in a completely different stage of shows than you are. Even me and Ryan, I can't compare myself to him. at all, especially when I'm in Cincinnati. No thank you, no siree. Like, not gonna happen, cannot happen. Because if I did, I would leave every show saying, fuck this, I hate my life. But I can't do that but instead I'm very happy for his show and I just deal with what I have.
But also, if you're doing a show, like, it is a lot of show history.
It is a ton of show
you
history.
You decide what good is based on what you did last time and
Yep.
what you brought, how the interactions were, the weather does kind of factor in if you're comparing year after year.
Yeah.
But generally you're going to have about the same people that come to the same show every year if it's the same exact show. Like, it's going to be pretty consistent.
Yeah.
Unless the weather is shit one year and then it's beautiful and 70 degrees the next year. Like,
right.
Maybe you'll get a few more people, but there's still a lot of people that'll come out specifically for that because that's just what they do every year. They come to that show on Saturday or Sunday, and that's just what they do as a family or whatever.
Yep.
And, maybe this year they're looking for plates, and maybe last year they were looking for a mug. Like, they're still going to be out and about and roaming. And I feel like if you just ask somebody randomly, hey, how was your show today? And you say good, that gives you next to nothing of an
Literally
answer.
nothing.
Like, they could just be being polite. Like, they're not going to say, oh, it was a bad day, and then you feel like you have to follow up, or then you're like, well, maybe I shouldn't have asked. It just makes you feel bad. And then you're like, you almost have to have a follow-up question if you really want to ask. But, we've talked about it before, like, asking people how they sell is kind of, maybe not. Tread lightly. Like, do you like pudding? What kind of pudding do you like?
Yes. I've definitely asked, oh my good Lord, I'm so sorry about the vocals on this episode. I hope it's okay. I've definitely asked people straight up, like, hey, what is good for you? What does that mean for you? If you don't mind asking, or like, if you don't mind me asking, and if you are uncomfortable don't tell me. I'm fine with that. But that's pretty much how I say it. And usually they tell me, and I'm like, oh, that's fantastic. Now, you can't get out of that conversation without telling them yours, typically. So be prepared for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then it might also, maybe you've never had somebody ask you back, what is good for you?
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah.
Like, maybe, and I think it should be different. I don't think you should have one good that's standard across every single show. That's not realistic to have.
It should always be different. Some people sell items that are $5. Like,
Right. And there's some, there's a lot of shows that I do. I'm not doing every single show where most people are going to buy, we're out there to buy fancier stuff.
Yeah.
There's very few shows that people buy my Sgraffito stuff, for instance.
Yeah.
I don't expect that to be at every show. A lot of shows I'm going to average around, I'm going to drum up a lot of sales because of the spoon rest. And that's going to be the bread and butter of that show. And other shows, mugs are going to be the bread and butter. I can sort of predict it because I've done a lot of the shows over and over and over. So I know what to expect and I know where to set my bar. And how to be as prepared as I can with what I bring to the show, how I set up the table, what's worth using the table real estate for. If mugs are not something that are going to sell at this show generally, and people are looking for, mugs generally sell, maybe that's a bad example. If soup bowls are not going to be something people are buying, or yarn bowls, then I'm not going to prioritize putting yarn bowls out there if it's not the right time for that. Like, if I'm in the middle of the summer, like, maybe I'll put a little less emphasis on the soup bowls and I'll put those on my secondary table. So if people get over there, the mugs are going to take forefront, the spoon rests are going to take forefront, the oil bottles are going to be in the forefront. But maybe those other things, I choose to put them on the other table because I've known what has sold historically at that show. But I do bring some of those other things just in case you get some people that are looking for those. But yeah, you have to do shows over and over to see how they do.
For sure.
Becca going to a Cincinnati show for the first time, it might seem like a flop, but Would her flop in Cincinnati be better than a flop in Indianapolis at the first time of show? Maybe.
Probably.
But maybe it's not worth the drive. You know, the drive is also a factor.
Yeah.
Maybe not anymore because you're traveling, but
yeah.
You know, if you have to drive 2.5 hours to make an extra $400 somewhere that you could have made $400 less at home and not having to drive anywhere, and you could have stayed in your own bed.
Right.
Like, you know, that should be a factor too. Did you get a good night's sleep?
Right.
Was the bed fucking horrible and it just ruined your morning and you couldn't have a good day because your back was killing you
right.
from the bed you slept in?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know that I've had that experience, but
I
could see that happening. Or you spilled coffee all over yourself and you ruined the shirt and you didn't bring extra shirts or something. Like,
yeah.
Shit happens.
Basically. Yeah, for sure. Good is good is good.
I like that. I like that last question. I thought that was...
That is a good question. It's a very... Yeah, you really have to, like, think about it. Oh, my God. I think it's how this chord is positioned.
Maybe.
Maybe. Anyway, we should go.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for listening.
Thank you.
We will catch you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Yo, yiggity yo. It's Becca here. Yeah. Hey, just so you know, thank you for listening. And also, we have... What do we have again? A Patreon. We have a Patreon that you should go, and if you want to donate to, you could donate to it. If you don't, that's cool too. But just Google Wheel Talk Podcast Patreon. Don't do the other one, because there is a Wheel Talk on Patreon, but it's not us. So make sure you get the right one. It's in the show notes. And also, leave us a review because they're fun to read. Okay, bye!